Welcome to Earth Archives. We all know that World War I was the occasion when aircraft first appeared, but there was a group of 500,000 airmen who were responsible for delivering information and saved thousands of lives. That is the historic messenger, Pigeon. Let's take a look today. The active performance of pigeons in World War I. Before the show starts, please subscribe, like, and turn on the little bell. If possible, leave your thoughts. This will help the growth of the show. Without further ado, let's officially start. Step aside Top Gun, cause the real high flyers of World War I had feathers. Yep, we're talking 500,000 homing pigeons carrying critical info across the skies. These bird brainiacs played their part in saving countless doughboys and deckhands with messages strapped to their little legs. And talk about guts and glory. Some of these feathered friends managed heroics that'll make your heart swell. Cher Ami, for instance, snagged the French War Medal, and there's even a pigeon called President Wilson, who's got his own special spot at the Pentagon. So, back in the day when the world was tangled up in barbed wire and trench mud, generals thought they'd got this war thing sorted with radios and phones. But guess what? Those fancy gizmos were about as useful as an ashtray on a motorbike when it came to the nitty-gritty of trench fights. One big boom or a sneaky wire clip, and communications were toast. And those poor blokes trying to lug around cable spools were sitting ducks. With all that tech in the fritz, the old-school pigeon post came back with a vengeance. These birds were no slouches, zooming up to 60 miles an hour and putting long-haul truckers to shame by covering some 500 miles in a single day. They had the endurance of marathon runners and the uncanny knack for finding their way back home, no matter where they were tossed into the fray. Dr. Christopher Warren from the National World War I Museum said we're talking about a whacking 95% success rate with these sky sprinters. When everything else was kaput, the pigeons kept calm and carried on without batting a wing. Now, according to Elizabeth G. McAllister, the pigeon lady and author extraordinaire, these birds got built-in GPS that would make Google Maps blush. Besides their hawk-like eyesight, they've got this funky mineral, magnetite, in their beaks that basically works like a compass. They can even pick up on those bass-like, low-frequency sounds that bounce around the globe. But here's the kicker, nobody's really cracked how they pull off homeward-bound tricks from brand-spanking new locations. Still a pretty cool mystery, huh? When World War I kicked off, both sides were quick to gang up the pigeon squads. Over in Blighty, the Army hollered for Lieutenant Colonel Alfred Henry Osmond to rustle up the Army Pigeon Service quicker than you can say, COO. Using his little black book of pigeon fanciers, he convinced a small nation of breeders to throw their birds into the war effort. And voila, 100,000 pigeons enlisted in the cause. The Frenchies, not to be outdone, got all innovative with mobile pigeon lofts on wheels, think Animal Caravan meets double-decker bus vibes. These homes on the go were birdie boot camps where the young uns got all cozy with human handlers, starting with baby steps and building up to a 4-mile jog before breakfast. After a solid 10 weeks, they were dispatch ready, darting from the deep trenches to command posts a stone's throw from the action. Now here's a picture for you. Big, burly soldiers trudging through the muck and bullets, with pigeon baskets swinging from their shoulders. They jot down secret notes, stuff them in tiny metal message holders, and tie them to the pigeon's legs. Pro tip: always send a duo of pigeons for better chances the word gets through. And it wasn't just on land either. Navy lads had birds aboard for those, oh crud, moments when the radios went kaput. These winged message runners were the unsung telecom operators, air-mailing updates on hidden enemy spots, and dialing in distress signals from sinking ships or downed airplanes. But it wasn't all smooth skyways for the homing heroes. The Germans, getting a tad ticked off by these pigeons' prowess, started setting traps in the clouds, bringing in ace snipers and fierce falcons. So what did the Allies do? Turned their pigeons into stealthy ninjas, dyeing them darker for that incognito crow look. Clever, right? In a feathery nutshell, the pigeon post of World War I was a bunch of badass birds making sure messages got through, no matter what. It's a tale of true grit, pinfeather precision, and, honestly, just a pretty bird-tastic approach to winning the war. So there we were, Uncle Sam getting into the thick of World War I in 1917, and the Yanks. Well, they were pretty green when it came to using homing pigeons, just a couple of fumbles during the scrap with Spain and chasing Pancho Villa around Mexico. But you bet, once they clocked onto the Brits and French getting results with these fluttering messengers, they were all in. Dr. Warren tells us they geared up with this kick-butt pigeon training program faster than you can say, bird is the word. Now, picture this, The U.S. Navy is out there clocking in nearly 11,000 missions with these birds zigzagging across the warzone like winged mailmen. The Army Pigeon Service, with a strong flock of 330 pigeon wranglers, set up shop in France, giving their new birdie recruits the old razzle-dazzle. Doughboys, or your average Joes of the infantry, went through a blink and you'll miss it pigeon crash course, 'cause there was no time to lose. And those birds, oh boy, they weren't your average park bench loafers. The service snapped up 10,000 of America's finest from the local fanciers, and even the Brits pitched in with 600 birds to bolster the ranks. Among them was our feathery friend, Cher Ami. More on that hero in a sec. Now, let's talk about Cher Ami, the winged warrior that made Rambo look like a couch potato. This plucky pigeon flew with the French at Verdun but hit celebrity status on a fateful day in October 1918 with the U.S. Army's 77th Infantry Division. These guys were in a tight spot behind enemy lines during the Meuse-Argonne offensive, a real doozy of a battle. Things got grim. Like, last ditch, sending a "save our skins" text in bird form grim. With every other line of chat shut down, Major Charles Whittlesey played his last card, attaching an SOS note to Cher Ami's leg. As the men watched their feathered Hail Mary take off, a German sniper clipped Cher Ami mid-flight. But, by some miracle, the bird pulled a phoenix move, soaring back up and limping 25 miles home. Cher Ami rolled up half-blind, with a bullet hole, and practically no right leg, but clutching the note that stopped friendly fire and saved 194 soldiers from being a history footnote. This bird became an instant American legend. Badly injured, yes, but the French decked him out with their top war medal, and his pals from the 77th Division whittled him a fancy wooden leg. General Pershing himself was like, "This bird deserves all the medals, and maybe a Netflix series." After war duty, Cher Ami got a well-earned retirement ticket to the US, living out his days in the pigeon equivalent of a swanky spa. His story, well, it's the stuff of old-school war legends, proving bravery comes in all sizes, even pigeon-sized.